Welcome back to Sunrise Day. Now we've got Balaraba Aliyu Inuwa, who is a Commissioner of Works, Housing and Transport. Yes, all of them in one. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Now clearly this is a huge ministry, and I reckon that you have huge resources, a chunk of the state budget. That will be, if I'm correct, in the region of 50% of that?
50 to 60%, you're correct, yes.
Okay, so now you clearly have a huge task and huge role, yes, looking at all of these ministries. How are you getting on?
Well, it's a challenge, it's challenging, but I think we're doing pretty well actually. We have the resource barrier is blocking our progress, but we have a very strong plan.
Which are the resources? IGR or human capital? Which one?
General resources. It's, I mean, it's infrastructure is capital intensive, and we have a plan. We have an infrastructure master plan which dictates, which is a very comprehensive and coordinated plan which articulates our vision for infrastructure for the next 32 years. And we're pushing ahead as far as we can. We're doing pretty well, as I said. We would have done much better if we had more resources. But we are doing well.
I know you've been used to a lot of all these complaints. They're talking about you didn't do this road, that house is not there, I don't have accommodation there. And for instance, now they also say, they allege that some of the infrastructural developments skew towards the north. And that's why some of them think that you have a lot of restiveness in the south. They think it's not commensurate. You heard that before, haven't you?
I have indeed, and it's completely baseless, I'm sorry to say. The investments are completely, I mean, there's no discrimination whatsoever. There's no disaggregation. It is equal among the three zones. It's unfortunate, you know, we do try to publicize our work as much as possible, but you know, there are times people don't have enough information, or you know, there are elements that try to poison and muddy the waters, unfortunately. But the investment is not skewed in any way, I assure you.
So this Kaduna State looks like a construction site, virtual and real. So
you could say so. You could say so. I wouldn't disagree.
So that means you tend to, the investors you're expecting to come in here, yes, they have to get into where and where are you getting them to go to? Are they going into the rural areas, or are they just within the Kaduna metropolis?
No, you know, we've tried to prepare for the investment as much as possible. The infrastructure, the work that we're doing is the backbone that prepares for the kind of development that we're hoping for, that we're planning for. And yes, we're hoping for investment both in the rural and urban areas. We've done significant work already to prepare the ground in the rural areas. We've done a lot of linkage roads, rural feeder roads. We provided a lot of power. We did a lot of transformers to provide power to rural areas, and potable water. We did about, the last couple of years, we did about 210 hand pump boreholes in very, very rural communities.
But when, it's good that you're mentioning this infrastructure one after the other. So let's look at them critically. In terms of the road, the connecting road, because the investor would want to finish his product, get it to the market, then back and forth, raw materials as well. How much of roads would you say have been done between 2.0 and 2.3?
I think
you could put it in figures. How much has been spent on road? How many of them have been completed?
I'll say about 60%. You know, we've actually done really well with roads. We have our road projects span in excess of about 562 kilometers across the state. Like I said, there is no disaggregation. We're all over. We're in every local government. We're doing township roads. We're doing linkage roads that link local governments to local governments. We're doing also rural feeder roads. So we've done really well. Most of our road projects, we have literally dozens that have been completed. We still have about 132 road projects that are still ongoing, and those that are ongoing are even at about 60 to 70% now. So we've done quite well with the roads, with the road network that we're trying to accomplish.
But the the water project, you said hand pumps. One would be thinking that we're looking at water treatment plants so that you have pipe-borne water piped into the homes instead of just building hand pumps.
Well, you know, I mentioned hand pumps when I was talking about very, very rural areas. What we found is that we had an emergency situation, this was 2 years ago, when we did a survey of the rural areas, I'm talking about the really out of reach, the areas that have been neglected for years, that have not seen any government activity since forever. What we found was that there was a serious lack of drinking water. We're talking about survivalist levels here. People did not have safe drinking water to look after their children, to feed themselves, and you can imagine the kind of waterborne diseases we're talking about. Now, the challenge with the rural areas, what we were dealing with is that they are, first of all, very hard to reach. At the time, we had not yet completed the rural feeder roads that we have now, that we're working on now, and it was difficult to do more sophisticated water systems. We had to do hand pump boreholes to provide emergency water supply, basic water supply for people to use. But in answer to your question, we have invested, huge amounts in water treatment plants, and you might have heard about the Zaria water project that we're working on with ISDB, is the Islamic Development Bank, and the ADB, African Development Bank. It's a huge undertaking that hasn't been accomplished for, I'm from Zaria. There has not